Yeah, okay. Oh, let me turn that off. Welcome everybody. Baruch Hashem, we are here today with an amazing topic, which we were asked to speak about a few times over the years, but Baruch Hashem, it worked out for now. The topic is the ins and outs of Maaser and Tzeddakah, the halachic, practical, and hashkafic perspective of this vital topic. So, Maaser and Tzeddakah is a part of our lives all the time. And sometimes we, especially as we enter the workforce, let's say we were in seminary or we were in high school and we weren't really making money in that way, but now that we have a job, so it really, there's so much that we don't know, there's so much that we want to know, and so we have the great zchus of having Rabbi Osdoba to join us here tonight. So, you know what? Thank you.
Good evening. So we're going to be discussing Tzeddakah and Maaser. Tzeddakah and Maaser are two separate mitzvahs. We start with Tzeddakah. Tzeddakah is a mitzvah in the Torah. In the Torah it says you should support a person, he's in need, you should take care of him, he needs money for food, for clothing, for shelter. That's a mitzvah from the Torah to give Tzeddakah. There's a separate mitzvah which is Maaser. Give a tenth of your earnings. And that is rabbinic. Being that it's rabbinic, therefore you don't have to use it just for a poor person who doesn't have food, doesn't have clothing, shelter, but you could also use it for other things, like for mitzvahs, as we'll discuss when we get to Maaser. So we're starting now with Tzeddakah. According to the Torah, Tzeddakah is someone who needs now, he needs food, he needs clothing, he needs now. The people who are collecting and they need, it's not for now, but they need for right now. They have what to eat, they have what to sleep, but they need money. So they're still in need. So then that's not Tzeddakah min Torah. Torah is when someone needs for now, for right now. It's still Tzeddakah, still a mitzvah, and you have to help the person. And to that, it's written that you're not allowed to leave the poor person empty-handed. You have to give him something. Now, how much do you give him? So it really depends on the person. There's no rule how much you have to give a person. So obviously, when a person is collecting, you're not the only person there. There's other people. You're not the only, he's not dependent just on you. But you want to make sure that you don't give something that's going to be, embarrassing to him, and it's hard to give an exact amount because it all depends on what he's collecting for, and it depends on, the full picture, what's going on, who's this person, where is it, and what is he collecting for, and everything. But so this is something that you have to get a feel for as you go on in life, with, let's say, someone's collecting and you give him a nickel. It's disgraceful, better don't give him a nickel. Some people feel, once someone told me in show that people come to collect and people give quarters. And it's not nice. I don't know, it depends. Not necessarily. It really depends who the person is, who he's collecting for. So it's really relative to the situation. So it's something you have to keep in mind. Now, it says that you can't leave a poor person empty-handed. You have to give him something. So the question really is, here, okay, it's more, this specific detail applies more to men and shul. There's constantly people coming and coming. So if you give each person, it's like you must give each person. So there are leniencies that because there's so many people collecting and the people understand that not everyone can give every person. So it's not really like an embarrassment where you're not giving them. So there's a leniency. And then also the chalal, when you give to poor people, you have a right to make sure it's legit. Sometimes there's people walking around and you don't know who they are. People who are new when they come to Crown Heights and they walk into 7-7, a person walks over to them and they just give them $10. What's going on? It doesn't make sense. But now let's go into details of Tzeddakah. The Rambam brings there's 8 levels in Tzeddakah, starting from the higher level to the lower level. The highest level in Tzeddakah, so we're still not discussing Maaser, this is Tzeddakah. The highest level in Tzeddakah is giving someone, giving someone a gift, so it's in a respectful way. Someone who needs money, give him a gift. So it's in a respectful way, like he's collecting. Or you help him get a job. Why is that the highest level of tzedakah? Simple. He doesn't have to go and collect. There's no embarrassment involved. He's done in a respectful way. So so it's still called tzedakah. Because tzedakah means helping. Tzedakah doesn't mean necessarily tzedakah putting a coin in the person's hand. You're helping the person. So that's the highest level of tzedakah. Going from higher to lower. The second one is when you're giving tzedakah and you don't know who you're giving it to, and the person who's receiving doesn't know who's receiving it from. The Beis Hamikdash had such a fund where people would put in a place, people wanted to give tzedakah for people who were sensitive people that they couldn't go and collect. It was uncomfortable for them. So people would put there, no one saw. They put money there, so you didn't know what's going to. And then the people would come who needed and would take from them. They didn't know who they're getting it from. These days, the closest you have to that is a tzedakah fund, like an organization, like Christ, many organizations that help people. That's similar. It's not exactly, because the ones who running the organization know that you're giving money. So it's not like no one knows. So, but it's close to it. The level below that is where you know who you're giving it to. Let's see how the neighbor doesn't have needs help. You don't want to make them feel uncomfortable. Take an envelope, put in some money, put it under the door. You know who you're giving it to, but they don't know who's giving it to them. That's a step below. Below that is where the poor person knows who's giving it to him, but the one who's giving doesn't know who he's giving it to. Times in Gemara, they had to meet the Chachamim. They would walk. They knew there was a bunch of poor people there. So it doesn't work these days. Okay, the poor people, legit, and they walk with a bag of money like this, and then they would drop it. So the poor person knows who's giving it to them, but the one giving doesn't know. So that's already a step below. Why? Because the poor person knows who's giving it to him. It's already a step lower. Afterwards, now we go into the examples of regular tzedakah. What within regular tzedakah, you have a person who's coming to you, and then you have when you go to the person. So instead of the person coming to you to collect, the person's money, you go before, you preempt that person, and you go to him and you give him the money before he comes to you. It's more respectful. So that's a higher level. Next is when you give it to him after he asks for the money, but you're giving him a proper amount. As opposed to the next level that's below that, we're giving him less than the proper amount. Now the lashon is pachus midoy, less than what's befitting. Again, that's relative. It's hard to give an exact amount. It's all relative to the situation. But there are certain types of organizations who are certain people are collecting where it's people understand that the proper thing is to give, let's say, $1. Just an example. It doesn't work, but there can be situations where proper things you give $1. Let's say in that situation, and you're giving a quarter. So you're giving less than what's proper. So that's a step below. What goes below that? Below that is we're giving it begrudgingly. So you're giving it to the person, but you're like, all right. It's like, as opposed to giving to him like with a smile. It doesn't mean literally a smile, but a smile can mean like your manner is like, the person pick up that you want to give it to them, as opposed to like, okay, again, here you are, even though you're not saying it, but the approach could be, okay, I have to give you again. And so you're not giving it with a smile, you're giving it like, okay, so that's a step lower. That was 8 steps. Now there's something lower than the 8 steps. And that is beginning it says panim zoyachos, with a sour face, where you're so annoyed with the person. Get out of here, take it. Just go. Like, what? Why are you coming here? You can't. Whatever. Why? Go. Take it. Get out. Like you really like. That's below the 8 steps. Why isn't it? But we said there's 8 steps. Why isn't it part of the 8 steps? So which step is it? That's not considered tzedakah. If you give tzedakah to a person and you give it to him with like, get out of here. I mean, whatever. I mean, dafka these were whatever the approach, your approach with that person is like. You're like just like disgusted with him. It's not. You haven't even done the mitzvah tzedakah. Tzedakah is not just about the amount of money. It's about the feeling the person gets. That's why a lot of times on a personal level, I mean, when there's a way like this, people come and show that people coming to collect. You can't always give everyone. Sometimes shluchim are coming and people are going on shluchim, so you can't always give. What are you do? I can't always give everyone. So as opposed to where you could just, the person comes by and you just ignore him. Yeah, you're not being rude. You just ignore him. You're davening. He walks. He's bending over to him. But then he comes out. You can tell. I tell him. So I wish I could give, but I can't. And the person, you see the appreciation that you didn't just ignore the person. You see, mamish, this person reciprocates that he appreciates it. That you understand, and they shushabench, whatever. Sometimes they say, okay, so you can't give, so give me a bracha. It's not just about the giving of the money, it's about the connection with the person. It's a mitzvah to give tzedakah every single day. Just like you spend money on your own needs, spend money on the needs of other people that's connected to Hashem. Spend money on Hashem, which Hashem wants you to help other Yidden. Within this mitzvah giving every day, when is the proper time to give? Or the proper time is all day. When is it a specific time to give? Before davening. Before davening, you want Hashem you want to connect to Hashem, right? Hashem is our Father. Hashem, the Father, feels special love to the children. All the children are together, united, helping each other. So you want Hashem to listen to your tefillos, you have to connect. It has to be achdus with all the Yidden. So that's a special time to give tzedakah before davening. The story, Tzemach Tzedek, famous story. Maybe some of you know it already. Maybe all of you know it. Tzemach Tzedek, that he would many times have the Alter Rebbe, after Alter Rebbe passed away, would come to him, reveal himself to him, and answer his questions that he had learning. And it was a while that the Alter Rebbe did not reveal himself to him. And then it was one day before davening, he was on the way to show, and he met a poor person. The poor person came over to Tzemach Tzedek. He says, I need some money. It's the market day today. He needs money to go to the market day, make some money. Tzemach Tzedek was about to go daven. Tzemach Tzedek said, after davening, come to me, I'll give you. And he continued walking. Then Tzemach Tzedek said to himself, he needs it for market day. The market day started already. He needs it for now. So he went back, he gave him the money. And right afterwards, Alter Rebbe revealed himself to him. And then we know Erev Shabbos, Erev Yom Tov, these are special times to give. I mean, give Erev Yom Tov, if it's 2 days of Yom Tov, you give extra for 2 days of Yom Tov. Of course, before Shabbos, give extra for Shabbos. Now, another interesting thing about tzedakah is there's the mitzvah. Every time you give tzedakah, there's a mitzvah. So it's not about the amount, it's about how many times you give. What does it mean on a practical level? It doesn't mean that if you have money to give to an organization, you're going to get a Zelle $50, an hour later another $50. No, that's not what it means. It means that, let's say you want to give a large amount of money. You don't have all the money now. Instead of waiting till you have all the money, you have $50 now, send it. Because every time you send, you're doing a mitzvah. You get more, you send more. Every time you give, there's a mitzvah. Rebbe speaks about putting a tzedakah pushka in the kitchen. Why in the kitchen? Because Rebbe says that you need Seyata D'Shmai, the help of Hashem, that everything in the kitchen should be good. What do you mean good? Rebbe says Cyber Gashmis, the food should come out good, and also it should be kosher. You know, you buy kosher food, but you Seyata D'Shmai. Things happen, you rise, you look at the chsed and get mixed up, and look like fleishiks, things can happen. Now, Hashem should help you, and everything should come out good. So when you give tzedakah to pushka, that's for poor people, and you show you care about other people, Hashem will care about you, and you'll have help from Hashem that everything in the kitchen will be good. So therefore, you have to have a pushka in the kitchen, and you knock it into a wall, in the place that you could see it, so you remember to give tzedakah. They didn't say specific right before you start cooking. They didn't say that lashon, but the idea is that you give tzedakah. I guess you could make it right before you start cooking. The idea is that you give when you come to the kitchen at some point, you give tzedakah. Rabbi also speaks about having the pushka in a car, stories about people who had unfortunate situations, and apparently just before that, the tzedakah pushka was removed from the car. The Rebbe said, make sure you have a pushka in the car. The Rebbe speaks about having a pushka in stores. Even there was a group going on a trip. The Rebbe said, take a pushka with them on the trip. Take a pushka with them. Now we're going to go to Maaser. Yeah, absolutely.
The first question is, how would a person giving know that the person receiving it needs it for now? As you said, like tzedakah is for someone who needs it now.
Right. So the tzedakah minat Torah is a poor person. It's really a poor person, not a yeshiva organization. No, it's a poor person. And minat Torah is a person who's poor, means that doesn't have what to eat. He needs money now, as opposed to he has, but his budget is not covering it. So that's not minat Torah. That's woman in abund.
So then how does that work in mitzvah having a pushka? Meaning in the pushka, you're just collecting.
It's only a technical thing in terms of minat Torah and midrabanan. In terms of stuck, it's stuck still.
Okay.
In regards to that minat Torah, it's when a person needs money for now. That's minat Torah. But if he needs for next week, that's not minat Torah. That's right now he's okay. So still a mitzvah. That's why it's brought down that you're not allowed to let a poor person just leave empty-handed. You have to give him something.
And then if somebody has, let's say there's a pushka and every day they want to get tzedakah before davening. If they have a pile that they already pre-gathered, that should be the coins that they take to give every morning. Does that?
Are you still giving tzedakah?
Yeah, like are you taking from your own, or you had already separated this money to give to tzedakah?
Yeah, but
it's the act of putting in the pushka.
But people also separate money from Maaser, and then they use it for Maaser. So you separate the money to use it to give tzedakah, and now you put it in the pushka. This place is designated for tzedakah, so that's fine.
It's the act of
I'm thinking in the pushka. I'm gonna do that pay on my credit card and
pay the organization with your credit card and then take their money. Why not? Remain change. It's not a problem. Okay, so there's a pasuk in the Torah where it says Aser to Aser. It speaks about tithing your produce. Aser to Aser. And Chachamim explained this pasuk that also alludes, in other words, even though the Torah is not speaking about my son money, but it also, everything has a source in the Torah. Also, even things that are rabbinic have some hint in the Torah. So here, this pasuk is also teaching us that give Maaser in order to get rich, meaning that if you give Maaser, you'll get rich, meaning Hashem will take care of you when you give Maaser, as opposed to thinking, I give Maaser, I'll have less. No, you give Maaser, Hashem will give you brachos. Because the word to aser, there's no dot in the Torah on the sin. It's a sin, but theoretically it could be a shin. It's a sin because we have from Allah sin how you read it. So you read it with a sin. But being that theoretically you could read it with a shin, so that lends itself, and the Chachamim are able to expound on this pasuk and say, it says aser to aser. The deeper meaning is aser, tithe, in order that share, so you should become rich. Meaning that if you give Maaser, Hashem will give you brachas and you'll become rich. And it's one mitzvah that's brought down that you can test Hashem with, it says. You can test Hashem. Give Maaser, Hashem will reciprocate. Now, of course, you cannot use Maaser for anything that you are obligated. If you're obligated to do Like with men, they have obligated to put on tefillin. They need a pair of tefillin. Could they use Maaser to buy a pair of tefillin? No, you have an obligation to wear tefillin. So you can't use your Maaser for tefillin. But if it's for a mitzvah that you have no obligation, if it's, let's say, for an organization, a yeshiva, etc., the tzayim, these are all mitzvahs, then you could use Maaser for that, because being at Maaser is rabbinic, it doesn't have to be necessarily for a poor person, it could be for mitzvahs too. Those people will use Maaser to buy tefillin for people on the tzayim. That's okay, you can't use it for yourself, but for other tzayim you could. Now, let's say you lend money to a person. You lend money to a poor person, and poor person can't pay back. Doesn't have any money to pay back. Sometimes people lend money. It's very common that they lend money and they don't get it back. Sometimes they don't get it back because people are taking advantage. And that's why there's less people giving loans these days. People have money. A lot of people don't want to give loans because they give loans and they don't go back the money. Let's say you give a loan to a person and he doesn't have the money. He really doesn't have the money to pay you back. He doesn't have the money. Now, could you deduct that from Maaser? According to many opinions, you could. If the person,
What do you mean deduct?
you have to give Maaser. Let's say you earn, right? You have a certain amount you're giving for Maaser. Now you gave someone a loan, and he says, I can't pay you back. And he actually doesn't have the money. He owes you $2,000. Could you say, you know what, I owe $2,000 Maaser, I'll deduct it.
So instead of paying Maaser, you're like, I already.
Right,
Donate it to him.
we're talking about if he actually doesn't have the money to pay back. According to most opinions, you could. This is the opinion of Igros Moshe, who's strict, and he says, only if you intended this way. When you gave him the loan, you had in mind that if he can't pay you back, so now when you gave it to him, you had in mind this is going to be for Maaser in case he can't pay you back. But many opinions say you could. Now, when you're giving Maaser,
Do you have to inform that person?
no.
So
To inform that person, then for sure you won't get back the money.
That's what I was wondering. What if he does pay you back later?
Oh, okay. So we're talking about that he actually doesn't have the money.
Mm-hmm.
So if later he gets the money and he's able to pay it back, the right thing would be to take the money and you take it from him and give it to Tzeddakah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Now, it's brought down, don't give your Maaser to one person. It's not proper. It's not a proper thing. It's not acceptable to give all your Maaser to one person to one place, because there is some concern that sometimes things go sour and the money that you gave to this specific person is not really in the right place. You know what I mean? Sometimes, even though you're doing the mitzvah because you're human and you gave it to the person with understanding that he needs the money, but sometimes you find out later things. So therefore, it's brought down. You don't give all your Maaser to one person. Spread it out a little bit. It's spread out 20 places, but it shouldn't just be, okay, I give all my Maaser to this place. It shouldn't be like that. Also, another thing. Sometimes people giving Maaser to relatives. Relatives who are poor. Could you use your Maaser for relatives? Well, you're gaining out of it because you have an interest in helping your relatives. But could you? The answer is you could, but not all your Maaser. You should only give half of it, only 50%.
For their personal use, or let's say like something they're running.
No. So right now what I'm discussing is relatives who need, no, not running. That's a good question actually. But right now I'm discussing relatives that need money. They don't have money to, day-to-day life. They're poor. Your relatives, you have interest in helping them. It's sort of benefits you the way. But they're poor. They're also poor. They're worse than anyone else. So it says, you can give them, but don't give all your money to them. Because the Torah speaks about helping poor people. The Torah says, don't hold back your hand from helping your fellow brother. If you're giving all your money to your relative, that means just by default, you are holding back from giving people in need, from giving to my relative. So you want to be able to also give other places. If there's relatives that from their organizations, I have to think into it. It would make sense. I'm not sure. I have to think about it. It could be. The question is, could you give all your money to? In any case, you don't give all your money anyways to one place. So it really boils down to the same idea. You don't want to give all your money to one place. So for sure, you can give half of it. It's not even to them; it's the organization. But anyways, don't want to give all your money to one place. Okay. Now, it's brought down that the chalal, you're not supposed to be medactic, you're not supposed to be particular with tzedakah, meaning when it comes to other things, you're particular with tzedakah, give it exactly. Be generous. Also, it's not a good idea to give an exact amount, that the Maaser should be exact. I earn $20,000 a year, and my Maaser is $2,000 exactly. It's not a good idea. Why? Because it could go into the category of a neder, of a vow. You know, when you do something 3 times, it becomes a vow, and you have to. So what if it becomes a vow? What's the problem? You should give Maaser. It could happen sometimes a person is not able to give Maaser. Now you get into this issue where you sort of have a vow that you can't keep. So in order to avoid this becoming the category of a vow, when you give Maaser, it shouldn't be exactly, you earn $20,000, give exactly $2,000, a little extra. It's like this, it's not exactly the same amount every year. And the same thing is when you give stock every day. Father always used to tell me, you give stock every day, don't give the same amount. Like sometimes people like give quarters. Yeah, these lot people give quarters every day. So don't give the same amount. Don't give every day a quarter. Not a good idea because it could become like a vow. Is it for sure a vow? No, if it's for sure a vow, because it's not like I definitely giving a quarter, but still you want to avoid any issues. It's best to give different amounts. So when they're quarter, when they a dime, if you don't want to give less than a quarter, so give more than a quarter one day, but it shouldn't be, avoid giving the same amount every day. Now, let's say you accept upon yourself that you're going to give a certain organization that you decided you want to help this organization. You decided that every year you're sending them a certain amount of money. Every year it's sending $3,000, whatever. This is, you're getting other places also. What happens 10 years later? You say to yourself, you know what? I don't want to give this organization anymore. They're doing okay now. I have other places I want to give. Now it could become like a vow because you're already doing it so many years. So when you start giving, when you decide you want to give to a certain organization, you should say bli neder. You have to say, you can think it also. You should remind bli neder. It's without a vow. Maybe it's better if you say it. Maybe you just need to say it. I don't know. But it should be bli neder. Like this, in case you decide many years later that you want to change, you don't get into shaila of a vow, because something that you do 3 times automatically becomes a vow. Not every situation, there's halachas on it, but this is connected to a mitzvah. It could become an issue. Now, you're buying raffle tickets, right? Last night was a 10-yard auction, right? Can you use it for Maaser? And I'm sure everyone knows the answer, yes, because I'm sure this is a common question. When I ask the question, the answer is yes, you could. However, sometimes in certain Chinese auctions, not so common anymore, I say it so much, but certain auctions, they sell a certain amount of tickets. They want people to know that your chances are very high to win. Only selling 500 tickets. Those auctions you can't use for Maaser because the chance of winning is much higher. You can't use it for Maaser. And even when you could use it for Maaser, let's say last night, if any of you won, just in case any of you won anything, whatever amount you paid for that ticket, you can't take that. That's not for Maaser anymore. Now you have to give again Maaser. Now, another important thing about tzedakah. Sometimes it happens, a person gets excited and he says, you know what, I want to give 3,000, I plan to give $3,000 to this organization. You said it. You said it to your friend, you said it to the person, no matter who you said it, you said it, okay? And then you go to sleep, you wake up the next morning and you're like, I'm not going to give $3,000. I think it's too much. I think I want to give $2,000. but because you said it, because it's about tzedakah, becomes a vow. If you say, you know what, today I'm going for pizza, and you say, no, I don't want pizza, doesn't matter. But if you say it for tzedakah, it becomes a vow, and you have to keep to be very careful. If you're thinking about giving tzedakah to a place, don't verbalize it. Or if you do, if you put clearly in your mind that it's not set in stone, it's not for sure, but don't just say, okay, I plan to give this amount. Be careful, unless you 1,000%, it's like done. So be careful what you say. Now, what about if you're not saying it, but you're thinking it? Thinking, I don't mean thinking like you think like I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking means I mean thinking you decide in your mind. You decide in your mind that you're going to give the same situation. You decide in your mind that you want to give a certain amount of money. You have to keep it. So be careful before you make a decision to be 1,000%. That's what you want to give. Because if you decide you want to give a certain amount, I mean, again, if you're just thinking about it, I think I want to give. Okay, but if you decide, you actually make a decision in your mind, you're giving this amount of money, then you'll have to keep it. You can't go back on it. Now, when you're giving tzedakah, when you're giving Maaser, you don't have to wait until you earn the money. In other words, let's say, okay, I earned $500 this month and I already set aside Maaser. I gave Maaser, and I want to give more. There's another organization that's asking for money. I want to give more Maaser. I don't have more Maaser. Next month, I'm going to have more Maaser. Can I give now because I'm going to earn money next month? Yes, you could. You don't have to wait till next month. You could do it with the intention that it's for what's coming later. And you keep track. You write down. Throughout the year, write how much you earn, how much you spend. And then by the end of the year, before Rosh Hashanah, you go through all your notes. How much did you earn? How much did you give? And you make sure that you gave enough Maaser. What if you gave too much? Now, why did I give so much? Okay, I want to count it for next year. Oh, could you count it for next year? So, it's questionable. And the right thing is that you should stipulate before you start giving Maaser that in case I give too much, if I overgive this year, it should count towards next year. Now, you're giving tzedakah every day. That can be part of Maaser, by the way. In other words, if you have Maaser and you set aside, let's say you set it aside. This is Maaser. From that Maaser, you give tzedakah every day. Tzedakah doesn't have to be besides Maaser. When you give before dawn, it can be part of Maaser. The Rebbe was very passionate about giving a chomish, a fifth. And obviously, not everyone is able to give a fifth. Some people it's difficult, but the Rebbe encouraged those who are able to give a fifth instead of a 10. And in one letter, the Rebbe writes to someone that apparently they were asking the Rebbe that they want to give extra. You don't see from the letter what the person asked, so it's not clear exactly what went on. And they were saying you're asking about giving more or something. That you do see there's something you see. The Rebbe saying you're asking about giving more. So the Rebbe says, give Maaser and another half. In other words, another half of Maaser. Instead of giving 2 times Maaser, which will be a fifth, Maaser and a half. That's what the Rebbe answered that person. Now, it could happen sometimes. Is there any questions? Any specific? Now, it could happen that a person does not have enough. He's not earning enough. He's not able to give Maaser. After all the calculations, the expenses, he's not earning enough. He's not able to give Maaser. So what do? According to halacha, if you don't have enough, so you're also a poor person. Why are you less important than the poor person out on the street? You're also poor, let's say. So you use the Maaser for yourself. So you separate Maaser, and then if you see that you need it, you take it for yourself. That's according to halacha. The Rebbe in the letters, people ask the Rebbe writes to people. In one letter, the Rebbe writes to the person who said he's struggling, he can't. The Rebbe said, so give half of the Maaser. In other words, you can't give the whole Maaser, give half of the Maaser, and the rest will be a loan. will be a debt. I mean, will be a debt. In other words, you write down that you owe this amount to Maaser. So when you have more, when you have Mitzvah Hashem will give you. You owe the money to Maaser. There's in one letter. In another letter, the Rebbe writes that he should give Maaser from the Maaser. In other words, you can't give a tenth, so give a tenth from the tenth. In other words, instead of giving 10%, give 1%. Give 1%. But again, and the rest you should write down as a debt that you owe to Maaser. There's an interesting story regarding Tzeddakah. You see, the Rebbe's approach is like, okay, sometimes it's not or everything or nothing. You know, I can't give my, there's this, you know, sometimes a person is like, it's too much, I can't give my, I'm saying, okay, you can't, but so give half. Sometimes the person says, I don't have to give, it's not so much, okay, I can push myself. There's an interesting story about Tzeddakah, not directly related to this, but about Tzeddakah. A person who had a lot of money, who was financially well off, who had a challenge in giving tzedakah, meaning they weren't able to give tzedakah, meaning they, you know, people have a lot of money. Sometimes it's hard for them to give. In general, people who have money, many times it's more challenging for them because they see the value of money more than a person who doesn't have money. A person who doesn't have any money doesn't see the value of money because the money comes and goes. You don't see, can't do anything with money, but they know what you can do with money. You can invest it and grow. So money is so it could be challenging for people who have money to give a lot. This specific situation, this person had a specific challenge, that he had an issue that's psychological, whatever it is, that he couldn't give tzedakah. He couldn't part with his money. He was a miser. And he wrote to the Rebbe, what should I do? Apparently, he wrote to the Rebbe, he went to psychologists, and he went to this, and he tried this, and he can't part. Well, the Rebbe answered him. The Rebbe said, make a decision from now every day that you're going to give tzedakah. In other words, instead of dealing with the psychology, why, what's the reason? Let's figure out why they start giving every day tzedakah. They didn't say how much. So it's like, it's not everything or nothing. The guy who's rich could give, who knows? The Rebbe says, just start giving tzedakah every day, slowly. You know, you do things slowly, and you start building up. Start giving every day tzedakah. And apparently from this, you start giving every day. He didn't say how much. Give a little, then he gave more. And apparently he got out of his issue.
Who sent the question?
Right, yeah, okay, those are the questions. Let's take those. Yeah.
So one of the questions was, are you, just to clarify, are you not allowed to buy auction tickets with Maaser, or only if you win, then you need to give that amount back, like pay that Maaser amount back?
You're allowed to buy auction tickets with Maaser.
Okay.
But if you win, then you pay, let's say you paid $100. So now you owe Maaser $100.
Okay.
Because you won a prize?
Because you paid $100 for a chance to win something, right? So you're using that for Maaser. Why are you using that for Maaser? It's tzedakah. What do you mean? It's tzedakah, right? Because it's just you're buying a ticket. You're not winning anything, but you won. So your $100 ticket, you got something that's worth, you bought something, you got an amazing deal. So that $100 is not Maaser now. Yeah, any other questions?
Yeah, can you use Maaser for tuition?
Oh, okay, tuition. It's the big question about tuition. So to start with, tuition cannot be with Maaser, because any time that you have an obligation to do something, you can't use it for Maaser. You have an obligation to take care of your kids. Now, there is a leniency for boys, older boys, that you could use for Maaser if a person is struggling and he doesn't have enough to pay tuition. If he's struggling, so then it's brought down to Alter Rebbe brings in, and the Rebbe speaks about it also, that for boys older, then you could use for Maaser, and that is, but the condition is that you don't have enough from from what you're earning, so then you could use for Maaser.
What if like you make up with a friend, you do for their kids and they do for yours?
So that's playing a game. That's not really correct. I mean, again, if a person can't afford, usually the question comes up when a person can't afford. So the thing is, if a person can't afford, so just like we just said before, a person can't afford, you could use the Maaser for yourself. Let's say you need for your own needs. So now it's part of your needs. You need to cover tuition. So if you're in that category, they're actually not earning enough. So then you could do that too. But then it's not that you're using Maaser, it's just that you're exempt from Maaser because you're not earning enough. So you could use Maaser even for your own needs. For day for food you can use. So you can also use for tuition also. Yeah, understood?
How does it work with vice days? For example, let's say donating to an organization that helps the community.
Right. So that's what we discussed before, that you're allowed to give for tzedakah. Being that Maaser is rabbinic, you could use it for tzedakah. Tzedakah that's helping, like with Tzayim, Chabad houses, that's helping the community. For sure, you could use Maaser for that. 100%.
And what about taking, you're talking about the nader aspect of it. So what if, let's say, you're happy to give, you make a pledge for a certain amount for the year, and you just, it's easier, more clear for you that every month you give X amount.
Right.
Is that just by, in your mind, just you have to say it's bli neder, or is there an issue with that? Do you dafka? I mean, there's many Chabad houses that have a high club, or a.
Right. So it's really the same idea. What we said before, that you should always, whenever you decide to give to an organization, you should make sure that it's bli neder. In case for whatever reason you decide that you change it, you're backing out, you don't give. So now you're just saying that instead of giving it all at once, you bring it up throughout the year. But it's really the same idea. You're pledging to give a certain amount every year. And you should have clear in your mind that it's bli neder, that it's not set in stone, but this is for the rest of your life. That for now you decide bli neder that you're giving every month a certain amount of money.
And if you made such a commitment before coming to this year, what happens then?
If you made a commitment before coming to the share that you're going to give every month a certain amount.
Yeah, like for example, we signed up for like a chai club for a Chabad house, so we know automatically $18 is going to come out every single month, and we're fine with that. Now, can I say that's for my lifetime? But
Not sure. That I can't answer on the spot. I have to. It's a shaila. Not necessarily all the things that we said that you should be careful because it shouldn't become a vow. Means that if you do it, it's actually going to be a real vow. To ask another shaila, what were you thinking? So the person says, I wasn't thinking to do that forever. I was thinking, what was in the person's mind? But sometimes it could come out that a person in his mind, he's very passionate. He says, I want to give this. Yeah, I'm just giving. This is what I want to give, and in his mind, it's like I'm with them. It's just they're my, and then all of a sudden he decides, he changes. No, but I'm gonna,
mm-hmm.
So we're saying, putting in mind that it's not, it's just bli neder. There's a question that came in about if you have an object, whatever you have, whatever it is, furniture, whatever it is, different things that you want to give to a gemach organization that helps poor people, I guess people who need, is that Maaser? The answer is yes. If it's Maaser is not only money, it's something that has value, a table, whatever it is, that you're giving to an organization that helps poor people who need, it's also Maaser. But the question was, what's if if I understood the question correctly, the concern was giving to gemach that gives out things, but sometimes the people who come who are not legit or just take advantage. I think that's what the question was. So what about that? almost in every organization, there's going to be situations. I mean, I'm sure all the organizations like 10 Yard or whatever, Sims Chasna all these things, they try to help people, and some they can't. They try the best to do their research on people, but you can't avoid that there's going to be sometimes a person who's not exactly in a category. So as long as generally, the best of my knowledge, if the organization is doing their job and they're trying not just random and something because it happens that it's people take advantage, doesn't mean it's not stuck. You're giving it a place that is meant to help people. Every organization, even in yeshivas, meisters, what do you think? Yeshivas just spend money on different things, and or they decided to spend money on something and to paint this floor, and there was a way, and why didn't have to paint it? It was fine like this. They decided to paint it. Oh, who says they have to paint? They decided. There's no end when it comes to these things. It's necessary, not necessary. There's an organization. If they're responsible, they're making decisions. You want to trust them.
How would you measure out objects?
What's it worth? What could you sell it for?
No, I'm saying like a tenth. Like tenth of what?
Oh, a tenth. I thought you meant giving an object for stuff. Let's see.
Like, let's say I want to donate clothing for myself.
Right. Oh, so you owe $1,000, Maaser. How much is the clothing worth? How much could you sell it for? The way it's now, what is it worth?
So it's monetary value.
Yeah. How much could you get for it if you would have to someone come and buy it? And how much could you get for it? That's what it's worth. Yeah.
What if an organization provides different aspects? So for example, let's say a general donation covers their general, they're taking care of people in whatever way, with a shir, a dinner, a Shabbos meal, whatever. But let's say there's a specific program like a Shabbaton, for example, where that specific money is giving that specific person a reward or a pleasure or a benefit. Can Maaser be used for a program
What do you
where?
mean they're getting the ones who are going to Shabbaton are enjoying something?
Correct.
Every yeshiva does programs for the kids, and they spend money to take the kids places, and it's part of the expense of the yeshiva because they feel this is what you need to fuel the yeshivas. The kids should be excited and reward them, and it's part of the growth of the students. It has to be done again, but it has to be done with thought. It can't just be splurging. It can't just be okay. We're going to go to great adventures. Like it has to be thought out. Yeah, and has to, and if you could, and you have to try to minimize on spending also. Like if you could take a regular bus, don't take a coach bus. Why? Unless you feel it's going to make the traveling on a regular bus for 6 hours is going to drive you crazy. It depends. It has to be thought out. It can't just be like like people like just have a lot of money. Just they don't think about it. Just spending. The organization has money. No, it's stuck money, and it has to be done with thought. Yeah. So thought has to be put into it. That's for sure.
Is it better to give Maaser as it comes, or is it better to? I know, for example, sometimes it's like there's a Maaser account, which is a lot of people do this. That they just as soon as they get a paycheck, they put in the Maaser account.
Yeah.
Once,
Smart.
then after that, then they delegate it to wherever it goes.
Yeah.
Or is it better to just say, okay, I got my paycheck, just give it right away? Like, is there a difference in
the? Much of a difference. There is, if you're giving it right away, so it's also good. If you're giving it right away, so why should there be a difference? Here, you're giving it right away, you're putting it into account. I don't see why there should be a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Why should one be better than the other? I mean, we said before, you could give Maaser, you don't have to wait till you get your paycheck. You're getting money. You give Maaser now on what you're going to get later. But either way is fine.
And is there I don't know if it's a science, but when the Torah speaks about the reward for Maaser, whether it's, are we talking about just brachas? Like sometimes it's like, okay, I'll do a mitzvah and I'll get brachas, and it's kind of like a general concept, or is it more of like, no, it's actual Hashem will pay you back in?
So that's what it says. When it comes to Maaser, this special brachas that's and all the Svarim and the Rebbe emphasizing the letters how from it's giving tzedakah, this very special brachas that come to people when you push yourself to give Maaser. And that's what he said. Aser b'shvil shetis ashi. Give Maaser in order that you for the cause, you'll become rich, even though that's what you're doing it for, but Hashem will give you the brachas. And it's specifically by Maaser that you have these special brachas that Hashem is saying, you could test me with this, that you give and I'll give you back. So it's specifically with when it comes to tzedakah, when it comes to Maaser. That's why the Rebbe says even if a person is not able to give Maaser, you should still give. So you can't give fully, give partially. The rest will be a debt. So there's something special when it comes to tzedakah that people should push themselves, even when it's obviously has to be. The Rebbe says even when people push themselves, has to be within reason. It can't just be like you can't just forget your family, but people should push themselves a little more than what they're comfortable with.
If someone, I mean, I don't know if you're touching, but if someone like doesn't make that much difference, whatever, they're like, I guess,
Then what?
a Rav can give like, I don't know. I mean, it's rabbinic.
Maaser is rabbinic, yeah.
I'm saying like, do they like you just give less amount? Like depending?
Could a person give less
Amount?
less than what? Less than a tenth?
Yeah,
Why would they give less? They're not able to?
yeah.
Right. So we said if a person is not able to, meaning the money they're earning is not covering their expenses, halachically, they could take the mice that they separated and use it for themselves. If they need the money. But the Rebbe writes in a letter that still a person should push themselves and give something. So he said in one letter, the Rebbe writes that you should give half of the Maaser. Another letter, the Rebbe is writing a tenth of a tenth. So put it in percent. In one letter, the Rebbe is saying give 5%, and the other 5% will be a loan. The other letter, the Rebbe is saying give 1%. Why the Rebbe wrote like this and like that? We don't know. The Rebbe wrote to different people, different times. The letter that was 1% is a later letter. So I don't know if that means the Rebbe changed as the times went on. I'm not saying that's what it means, but there's talking to different people, whatever, different situations. Yeah, is that answering your question?
So just depending on your situation.
So, yeah. So I guess that could be what it is. Person, I guess there's different. Depends on the situation. Here you see that Rebbe wrote like this and like that. That means obviously this probably has to do with that too. A person should push himself to give something. It's not like it's not you give nothing. You still have to give. You have to push yourself.
Is that like also like when you normally give like 10%, but you're going through something and like then you would like that? I guess that's what you're saying about the negative. Is that what you're saying about the
Then
negative?
if a person is having a difficulty and they can't give 10%, so they give less.
Yeah.
But the rest you should be a debt. You write it down that you owe money to Maaser. So eventually, when you have money, you'll be able to pay it. Any questions?
I guess this kind of contradicts this concept sound, so I'm curious. If someone, let's say, really, they themselves need it, could they put it in the Maaser account? I think you mentioned this before, but how would that work with the debt? Meaning they put in their Maaser account, and then from the Maaser account, then say, okay, well, my regular account is at empty, and I still need to buy food for the Shabbos or to survive.
Right.
So therefore, I'm going to use the money in the Maaser
Right.
account. If that is so, do you still put it as an owing? Do you still owe Maaser?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, so basically you're
According to
not.
what the Rebbe is writing, that's what it comes. That's what
Uh-huh.
that's what the Rebbe. Halachic. According to halacha, no.
Okay.
According to the letter of the Rebbe, it comes out. If I understand correctly, that's what it seems the Rebbe is saying. That no, you should give something, and now you can. So put it as a debt. In other words, the Rebbe's approach is you can't. So what are you gonna do? So no, you could. Well, you can't. So you need to. So the Rebbe says, okay, take it, but to write it as a debt is not going to kill you. You're still going to have what to eat. So write it as a debt. So you own. In other words, why let you off the hook? The Rebbe's approach is let you off the hook because you actually need the money. Fine. Okay, we're not going to starve you. Yeah, but debt, write it as a debt. When you have money, you're able to pay. Why? In other words, so you still giving mice. You still will giving / will be giving Maaser. So in other words, you're not. It's not like okay, no Maaser, no mitzvah Maaser is over because debt. So you eventually you'll pay. Comes off the Rebbe that the fact that that doesn't say clear. My understanding is the Rebbe is saying, you give Maaser, you get brachas, right? So if a person is writing it down as a debt, that's also he's giving Maaser according to his ability. For him, that's giving. He can't give. So writing it down is also giving for him. So that's also that itself that he's obligating himself to give. That's also giving brachas. That doesn't say clearly the letter. Now it dawned upon me that I think that's the pshat. That because you obligating yourself, you're writing it down as a debt. So you're pushing yourself to give more than you could. How could you, if you can't, how could you push yourself away? Writing down as a debt is also pushing yourself because you say, I'm going to give. So that brings brachas.
I remember correctly. I'm trying to remember where I learned this. But when somebody does that they write it down as a debt, it's. I'm trying to remember if it was a letter of the Rabbi or where I learned this, but that by doing so, you are making the keli for the tisyasher bracha. Like
when you're writing that as a debt.
Yeah,
what I was saying. So if somebody says
right,
so,
that's what
I
I'm saying.
didn't see it, but it makes sense. Could be says it somewhere else.
Right.
But it makes sense. It's just simple art, but according to the
like
how
the same dollar that you're keeping for yourself, when you keep for yourself, it's $1. When you give it to Maaser, it's gonna come back at $10. So there was like, don't give up on the bracha, don't give up on the
right.
the benefit of it. Wow. Any other questions?
Yeah. Simple words. Tzedakah is a very, very special mitzvah. Very special.
I think we had one more question.
Yeah. Can you use Maaser money for things you need for like shidduchim, like to pay shadchanim?
For yourself.
Yeah.
Right? So the answer is initially no, because anything that you're obligated to do, you can't use for Maaser. Anything that you need, it's for yourself, so you can't. But again, if a person can't afford it, and so then you can take from the Maaser account and use it, but then write it down as a debt and still give some of the Maaser.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you so much, Osdoba. I really, really appreciate it. I learned so much.
Thank you.
Come.
Thank you.